The MLB offseason is off to the races, and while the Philadelphia Phillies sit on the sideline, they are certainly feeling the effects. There are plenty of decisions to be made, and some are being made for them as the league springs into action with the Phillies still sorting out their game plan. What will Dave Dombrowski do next is the million-dollar question. Do want to dive into the latest updates that we do have in regards to Kyle Schwarber status, Ranger Suarez status, some of the latest, reports that are surfacing regarding what this market could look like, and the deals that are going down. And the number one thing that I want to jump into to start is the news that we got of the Orioles trading for Taylor Ward in exchange for right-hander Grayson Rodriguez. Now, the reason that this is notable here is Taylor Ward is a guy that we've talked about as a potential outfield solution for this Phillies team. That the outfield is one of the bigger questions in regard to what will this team look like next year. That, yes, we do have to have the Kyle Schwarber conversation, and we'll dig into that in a second. But the biggest question mark is we don't know for certainty what any of the outfield positions will look like on opening day next year. Will Harrison Bader be back? Nick Castellanos, all signs pointing to him being traded there. Johan Rojas, what is the future with him, who certainly has fallen out of favor to an extent with the organization, although he's playing some really good ball in the Dominican leagues right now. There's a lot to unpack here, and Taylor Ward is not going to be a part of the solution. Now, the reason that I think this is interesting in regard to the Ward conversation, we got this from Jeff Passan here, who tweets out, Taylor Ward is a free agent after the 2026 season. Baltimore, which has been looking for pitching, gave up the 26-year-old Grayson Rodriguez, who isn't a free agent until after 2029. He also missed all of the 2025 season with arm issues and is coming off an elbow cleanup. Now, the reason that I bring this up here is I think Grayson Rodriguez could turn out to be a damn good pitcher at the Major League Baseball. This is a guy who, if he gets his health straightened out, that is a steep price to pay, particularly when you factor in the team control side of things. That's a high price tag for Taylor Ward. I'm not in doubt that Dave Dombrowski didn't work the phone and see what the price tag was, but I don't think the Phillies were going to be willing to come up to that margin there for a guy like Taylor Ward. And perhaps the more notable part about this to me is that likely means Joe Adell is off the board. The Angels just made the decision to trade one of the outfielders that were likely on the marketplace there. Adell was my preference out of the two, but I can't imagine that they're ditching both of them there. So I think that kind of takes two off the board by one being traded there and Dave Dombrowski not being involved in either. Now, the latest sort of loose ends that I did want to tie up here is officially that Kyle Schwarber and Ranger Suarez have rejected the qualifying offers from the Phillies. Now, this was more of a formality than anything. This was not something that we expected to really be set in stone. But to dive into the specifics of why that is the case, courtesy of Phillies Nation here, is that they write, in what will amount to the least surprising news of the offseason, Kyle Schwarber and Ranger Suarez have both rejected their qualifying offers, according to ESPN's Jeff Passan. The qualifying offer was set this year at $22.025 million, which Yankees outfielder Trent Grisham, and I will interject there, Grisham a bit of a surprise that was a guy I expected to at least test the market there, but nonetheless can't hate on it. Tough for me. I personally would have a tough time turning down $22 million, so I get it, brother. And it continues on. Tigers infielder Gleyber Torres, Brewers pitcher Brandon Woodruff, and Cubs pitcher Shota Imanaga all accepted, per Passan. It was a no-brainer for Schwarber to decline, and Suarez too. If the southpaw takes a shorter-term contract, it'll be for a way higher than that amount. Even if he signs a longer-term deal, it will still likely be above that figure. Plus, on the heels of a strong second half and the heaviest workload of his career, it wouldn't make sense for a player with some injury history to take a one-year deal. So both now head into what will be intriguing free agency. Suarez, one of the longest tenured Phillies, who turned into a fan favorite since his 2018 debut, with several postseason moments, including a pennant clincher to his name, generally isn't expected to return. His market should be robust. Schwarber is another story. It's not a shoo-in, but expectations are that he and the Phillies will eventually reunite. His market, too, should be wide, but as a soon-to-be 34-year-old designated hitter, it's unclear just how wide. And though it's no secret, the Phillies know better than anyone the value that he brings to the clubhouse. Now, the reason that I bring this up here, and my fear for the Kyle Schwarber conversation, is my worry is this is going to extend to a point where it hinders the organization from making moves outside of this. Now, obviously, they're going to make some form of moves there, but it all predicated all stats of it. The dude hit 56 home runs last year, batted in 132 RBIs, had a 365 on-base percentage across his 604 at-bats, logging 145 hits, 197 strikeouts there, a 563 slugging percentage, and beyond just the raw stats, the intangibles that he brings, the leadership that he just exudes within the clubhouse, he is a fabric of this Phillies team. But that's what this makes this conversation so difficult. Now, I have talked out of both sides of my mouth to an extent here. Is for most of the season, I was very much of the mindset that this is blank check territory. Whatever Kyle Schwarber wants, that is what you give him. Then, of course, there was the postseason flameout. And the problem that I have with this conversation is, how do you build out from here? I almost sort of feel like the outfield is sort of, the opportunity to change this team. That, yes, it's true that Kyle Schwarber is the fabric of this team, but there has to be some level of change there. With all those things considered, I don't see how you can replace 56 home runs within this lineup here. And that seems to be the message league-wide here. So we got from MLB Network this quote here saying, somehow, some way, they're going to bring Schwarber back because I can't imagine the Phillies without him. And that is sort of the takeaway. And you can see the 4 notable free agents on the table here, that being Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, who is an interesting conversation there, Harrison Bader, and Ranger Suarez. Both Realmuto and Schwarber are guys that I think when push comes to shove will be back in a Phillies uniform next year. A little bit less certain about Bader, and certainly feel like Suarez will ultimately sign a lucrative deal somewhere else. For Suarez, it will break my heart, but I get the market and I understand where this Phillies team is at with the depth that they do have at pitching, with the belief that they continue to express with a guy like Andrew Painter. You sort of have to pave a pathway for him to prove that there, and that is certainly kind of the situation that is playing out in front of us. But to bring it back to Schwarber there, he is not going to be a guy that is short on suitors. And to dive into the latest reports of what we got, this coming from ESPN.com here, is it writes, the demand for Schwarber is high, which is no surprise considering he won't get more than a 5-year deal because of his age and positional inflexibility as a full-time designated hitter. Of course, when you hit like Schwarber, neither age nor position matters. Teams have made that abundantly clear, all the way from the obvious suitors, the Philadelphias are feeding for him to re-sign, and the not so obvious. Yes, Pittsburgh is in on Schwarber as well. And interject here, I would put the chances of Kyle Schwarber signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates at just about 0.0% here. That I respect the Pirates. I don't even really respect the Pirates as an organization, to be perfectly honest. I respect the intentions of them presenting themselves like they're trying to win right now. But the bottom line is that organization has never spent money like that. And for Schwarber specifically, I think if it was just all things equal, he would want to return to Philadelphia. The only pathway I see him leaving here is if it comes with a pretty penny. And that's where we're at this stage of the conversation. We are in bidding war territory. The teams are going to be presenting their best offer. And again, my fear here is that this drags out to a longer extent than the Phillies organization will be comfortable with. Sort of the natural progression and the natural, reaction if Schwarber is hypothetically to sign elsewhere is Kyle Tucker is the name that continues to pop to mind here. If Kyle Tucker signs before Kyle Schwarber, all of a sudden the Phillies are having some problem for how do you replace that level of big ticket bat, that high profile player that this team simply needs in the lineup, as a member of the roster here. I do hope that Schwarber is back. I do think Schwarber will be back, but I don't really love this game that is currently being played, this game of chicken. Have those conversations. Get in the room. Talk some dollar figures for what are we looking for, Kyle? What can get you to sign on the dotted line right now and figure out if you can make something happen? That is the big piece that ultimately a lot will fall around. But my worry, once again, is if this extends too long, you miss out on a lot of other opportunities. Sort of the message that I've fallen on in the Schwarber conversation is it is not just sign Kyle Schwarber at all extents. It's what are you sacrificing to make sure you sign Kyle Schwarber? If you allow this process to play itself out, you sort of lose both those battles, as there is always a world where a team flies in there, is willing to spend to a level the Phillies are not, and you're just simply missing out on the opportunity to sign other guys because you don't have this under contract or set in stone. I do hope there's a resolution soon. I don't get the feeling that this is in the super short term. I don't think we're going to hear a Kyle Schwarber signing this week, even though I would love to be wrong about that. But I do think this is something the Phillies need to get their ducks in the row, need to figure out the priorities, and need to get this guy actually nailed down and signed to a contract there. To Kyle Schwarber, I do hope he's back in a Phillies uniform, but there's still a lot more questions than answers for this Phillies offseason, and they're missing out the longer that they do wait. So we'll see how things unfold from here. I'm going to be breaking things down from every single angle right here on Phillies Digest. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Are you sort of having the same sort of fear that I am? That I worry that they are sitting on the back seat, having all these conversations with Kyle Schwarber, while all these other inner workings around the league are working themselves out. So we'll see how things shape out from here, but appreciate you guys for tuning in this video. If you have not already, make sure you're smashing the subscribe button to the channel. Drop a like on this video. Give me your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be back talking to you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.